So what we're going to look at now is how do we display those errors. We want our errors to display just above the form, just below the create new user thing there. First and foremost, we're going to refresh this because last time we added console.dir, if you recall. And in here, we'll spit out some similar errors. Email. Okay, and we'll see what we're dealing with. Okay, perfect. So now we've got the little arrow there and we can push down to see what we can access in here. So first of all, let's take a look at the response. So this is a status 422. And because we might throw, say, like a 403 instead, or something else, if it's not authorized, we want to catch both of those, right? So in this case, we're gonna go errors.response.status and see if that's a 422. Then we know we're gonna have to basically send across the errors to our to the method that we're going to create to basically flash our errors to the screen. So let's do this here. We will say, oops, if errors.response.status equals 422, then we want to do some things with this. So first of all, let's give ourselves that area for the errors. So the errors are going to be placed within an errors object here, and it's just right now going to be an empty array. And we're going to put in a conditional up here, and that is we'll flash an alert. So alert dash warning in this case, and we're going to give that a role equal to alert. And up here, we don't want this to actually flash unless errors.length is greater than 0. Is greater than 0. Then in here, we'll just flash a simple list. Li, we'll say v4, we'll use the v4 directive, and that's going to be error in errors. And we'll just spit out the error that's in there. Now, we've already set this up, so what we're going to do is we're going to create a special method for this, which is going to be flash errors. And it's something else that we can plug into, say if there's some other kind of an error that would be coming through in here. This is going to be errors as an object. And what we want to do here very simply is we can use object.keys or we can use object.entries. So in this case, what I think I'm going to do is I will use object.entries. And it's basically going to take a key and a value pair for us of, we'll say object.entries, and we'll pass through errors in this case. Now here, we're going to go through each of those errors. So we'll say let item in value, and we're going to push the errors for each one to there. Okay, so this .errors .push. So if you're not following right now, what's happening is we're taking the value that's coming out of each entry. So you have the key side, you have the value side. Now the value itself is being pushed out to us as an array. We have it as an array value. So we need to go through this as well because there might be more than one error within that particular array. But either way, you have to go through, treat it as an array. So what we need to do is any item within that array of that particular property, we need to push to our own errors array. And this is going to collect all the errors from all of the properties that are in there, as you may remember from the last, what we just console logged to our console. So we'll say value, and then we need to put item in there. Okay. If that doesn't make sense, just play around with it. You'll see what I mean. But this is probably the simplest way to actually set this up. Well, that's one way, certainly. I mean, we could probably use for each, in here instead of saying for. but we'll leave it like this. That's fine. So we want to call this dot flash errors. And let's go take a look at what's coming, where we can find that in our object. So our errors are going to be basically under errors, because you can see right here what we're doing is we were console logging, we're bringing in errors. That's the response. So it's going to be errors.response, but instead of status, it's going to be data and then errors. So errors dot response dot data dot errors. Okay, let's see what happens here when we refresh and we try to submit our form again. Create user. Perfect. So we received the response of the 422, and now we can take that response and we can specify where our errors are or what our errors are. So the name must be at least 3 characters long. The password must be at least 10 characters. The password format is invalid. The password and password confirm underscore password must match. So all these items must match in there. So we have our errors spit out to the top here. There are ways to change what's, in Laravel, what's being flashed to us for our errors, but we'll leave this as is for now and look at that probably in a later section. So there we have it. That's great. Let's flash through one other item. What do we do if basically the user is not authorized? So we'll make this user not authorized. So right now we are an administrator. We only want to authorize them if they're not an administrator. That's why I put the not there. Basically, this will throw us another error. Might be a 422 again, but it should be a 433 in my opinion. Because, 403, sorry. So we have a 403 being sent. So in this case, really simple. If we get a 403 error now, let's go ahead and we'll catch that. So if errors.response.status equals 403, then we can flash something very simple. So we'll say this, well, what can we do here? We'll just say this.errors equals, and then we'll just put it simply in an array because it'll only be one error that comes through, right? So it'll be you are not authorized to create users. Okay, so that's done there. One other thing we want to do here, because if we keep submitting this, it's just going to, well, in this case, it's not going to keep appending to it. But if we keep submitting it, for example, after we fix our errors, we'll still see the same errors sent to us. Actually, let me give you a demonstration of that here. So I'm going to refresh here once again. We'll verify that it's working for if they're not authorized. Okay, perfect. You're not authorized to create a user. Let's go to the back end here and we'll say StoreUserRequest, and now we'll authorize them, but we'll send over a bunch of invalid data basically. So all right, this at .com role, all right, this pass and password. Okay, perfect. Now let's see what happens. Okay, so you can see here we still retain this, and if I do this again, we can see it just keeps getting appended. So really simply what we can do to empty out that array, we can kind of redeclare it in a way and say this.errors, basically when somebody clicks on store user again, we want it to clear off all the errors. So this.errors will just equal an empty, oh, sorry, no, it has to be within the method itself. Okay. This.errors equals an empty array. Okay. So let's send that across here. We'll say user, create user. Okay. If we do it again, okay, same thing. So let's actually put a name in here. You see the name the name is off now. .com create user, you can see that's off. But maybe if we do this, I know this email is in the database. Let's check that out. Oh, see, the email has already been taken. Okay. You know, the confirm password field is required. One thing we might want to add in here would be a placeholder. So let's go ahead and put a quick placeholder in here for that, so we know what it must contain when we actually go to place stuff in it. And so we'll say placeholder equals, must contain a lower and uppercase letter, a number, and a special character. Must contain a lower, okay, perfect. So we have all that information here. Now what should happen is if we have typed in everything correctly, then we'll just basically return to ourselves the response as an array of the data that we already sent to them, because we haven't changed anything else there in the actual controller. So we'll say Tyson1@modcall.com. I'm going to do capital P, password, 123 exclamation mark, and again exclamation mark, create user. Perfect. Okay, so this is fantastic in here. We've created a user in our we haven't created a user, sorry. We've passed the data through successfully. It's made it past our validation and our authorization, which is all very important. So in the next video, what we're going to look at is actually adding this to our database.